Your definition of tough is going to depend on where you're at, but the principles of what I'm going to talk about remain the same. And this is trying to play a strategy out of position that is it's a sound strategy. And you'll hear all the pros and all the big people who have the training sites that are the best in their field. And trust me, I'm members of all of them, or I have been members of all of them at one point in time or another. And you'll see these strategies and things talked about. So these guys know what they're talking about, but when you start implementing them, you see where you run into a lot of problems. And sometimes maybe that strategy just isn't for you. And so last weekend I knocked heads with one particular player in this position, and then this weekend I got into two big pots with this player in this position. Luckily, this weekend I came out on top in both of them. But nevertheless, the situation we're going to talk about is three betting pretty big hands from the small blind versus button raise. So it's folded to the button. You have a strong player on the button who raises, and you look down at a great three betting hand. You three bet, they flat call, and now you're going to a flop out of position, and you have to navigate flop, turn, and river against a very tough opponent. And while this is profitable, and you see the best players in the world do it profitably, I just don't know how wide I need to get with that, because I've seen where it gives me some problems. Like I said, two times I got into this weekend against a very tough opponent, and I came out on top both times. One time I had ace king, and the other time I had pocket kings in the small blind. And he raised from button. I three bet, he called, and we had to. The pocket kings hand wasn't quite so hard to traverse. Got a little tricky on the turn, but the river we hit a king on the river for a set. So I mean, it wasn't the toughest hand, but it got a little hairy on the turn. The ace king hand there was lots of play involved, and I made a play on the turn. In hindsight, I don't know if it was the best play, but it was a check raise turn. Got me to the river where we hit the king. And then I checked out a position on the river with the king. I knew he would bluff, because I just know him. I know the player. And he bluffed, and I was in a position where I couldn't raise because there was a straight out there. There's some possible two pairs and things out there. So I just had one pair. I had king with the best kicker possible. So I'm not getting crazy, but I'm calling. And I called and I had the best hand, and so we won two nice ones. But I want to look at some simulations of percentages and equities that you have when you get in these type situations against the button raiser when you're in the small blind with a raising hand. So I may look at a couple of them, but for sure we're going to look at this one, which is ace 10 suited. So you have a tough, competent opponent that raises from the button. Now, it's been folded to him, right? The button raises, and you're in the small blind. You look down at ace 10 of suited. And in this situation, I'm going to use ace 10 of clubs, but it's kind of irrelevant, except if you want to follow along. It'll help you visualize if you want to take notes. So we got ace 10 of clubs, and so we three bet here. And I think pretty much every pro out there would say this is probably something you do with a pretty high frequency. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I'm saying if you know the player, you do it a lot. For the button raiser, I gave him what's a pretty standard tough opponent opening range, which is about 50% of hands. It's all the aces, suited and unsuited. It's kings from king 7 and better, queens from queen 8 and better, jacks from jack 8 and better, tens from 10 8 and better, nines from 9 7 and better, eights from 8 7 and better, sevens from 7 6 and better. And then in the suited varieties, all the suited kings, all the suited queens, suited jacks down to 7, suited 10s down to 7, suited 9s down to 7, suited 8s down to 6, suited 7s down to 5, suited 6-4, 5-4, and obviously all the pairs as well. So it's it's 50%. It's a big range. And I think pretty accurate. So you got ace ten, and uh, let's let me clear Poker Cruncher and let's look at pre-flop equities against that range. So pre-flop equities against that range were 61-39. So it's basically 60-40, right? So what happens when we have a scary looking flop coming? The reason I want to look at scary looking flops is because we're out of position. And so anything that scary comes makes this very difficult. And not just scary, but scary where we hit a ton of equity. So let's say a straightening board comes out. Remember we have ace 10 of clubs. Let's say 7 of hearts comes. Let's say 8 of clubs comes. No, let's go back. 8 of hearts. 9 of clubs. And 10 of spades. So it's rainbow. So it's 8 of hearts, 9 of clubs, 10 of spades. We have backdoor clubs. We have top pair, top kicker. But it's a straightening board. Now, all the big hands are in Button's range. He has a set of 8s, set of 9s, set of 10s. He has 8-9. He has 10-8. He has 10-9. He has Jack Queen. I mean, all the nuts he has. We have some of them, but not nearly as many as them. You know, we have pocket 10s, pocket 9. I guess we have all the sets, just at a lower frequency. I don't think we have as many 2 pairs. And I think the only flop straights we have are the suited varieties. Only 4 combos of those. Theoretically, he can have all 16. I think instead of giving him all 16, we're running it through our head. Maybe he gets spicy with the offsuit some of the time. So let's just say he has half of those. So, maybe 12. He has 12 goners. Nevertheless, he has a lot of nuts here. Nevertheless, we'll run the calculation on it and see what the equities are. So real-time equities against his entire range. And remember, we're assuming he's raising about 50% of hands there. So it's 65-35. We've improved over our pre-flop equity position. So 65-35. I want to see how much that 9 of clubs makes a difference because we have the back doors. If we change this 9 of clubs to a 9 of diamonds, so it's rainbow, and we have no backdoor flush draws. Goes down a little bit, 63-37. Still, we're in a pretty dominant position. I'm going to leave it like that. And let's say I want to look at the equities depending on if the bottom end of the straight draw comes in or if the top end comes in. Because this is something you're going to see happen, and you have to know what to do. We got top pair, top kicker on an 8-9-10 flop. We're going to leave it rainbow, and we're going to bring the bottom end in, and we'll bring the 7 of clubs in, so we keep it rainbow for simplicity's sake. And suddenly we're now 50-50. So if you have 3-bet pre-flop with ace-10 suited and get called on the button on an 8-9-10 flop, rainbow, you're in a dominating position, 65-35 or better. When the turn brings a 7, you're now 50-50. It's a 50-50. Your hand against his range is 50-50. That is not good. Let's see what happens when the jack rainbow comes in. So when the top end comes in, you're now actually behind the range. He has range advantage, 57-42. That's really almost 43. Nevertheless, 57-43 we'll call it. So when the top end comes in, why is that? Well, because he has the king jacks. Queen jacks obviously are straight, but he has the jack 10s, jack 9s, jack 8s, ace jacks, pocket jacks. I mean, that is just so good for his range. So when the 7 comes in, when the rainbow 7 comes in, we're flipping. When the rainbow jack comes in, we're just really dead at that point. So what happens when the board pairs? I think you should imagine this probably is going to benefit us to some degree. I don't know. We'll run it and see. So let's say the 8 of clubs comes in. So it's 8, 9, 10 rainbow and then the 8 of clubs. So you get a paired turn. Yeah, equities remain about the same, 66-33. We improve a little bit in equity, and I think that would be true for any paired board. We'll run it just to make sure. 9 of clubs, 67-32. I'd be interested to see what 10 is. We should crush with 10. I don't know how high it'll go. Okay, 82-17. I actually thought we might get 85 or better, but still, it's 80s. I mean, obviously, you own it when the 10 comes. It's always interesting to see just how strong it is. Lastly, we'll see when a rag comes. Let's just throw a deuce in there. And you're in that 70% range. So, I mean, really all you're worried about is the 6 or the jack. I'm sorry, the 7 or the jack. You're basically dead with the jack, and you're flipping with the 7. So the last thing I want to see is what if some kind of gutter thing happens. So that would be, instead of a 7, it would be a 6. So let's say it's the, that's not it, turn. 6 of clubs. So let's say your opponent had some kind of a 7. So the 6 brings the straight. You're still 60-40. And I think, as you can imagine, if we go look at the top end and bring the queen in, so if he has a jack, he hits the straight, we're going to be in probably flipping percentage. Yeah, pretty close to a flip. 52-48, so you're pretty much flipping. So pretty much any of those top straightening cards come, you're flipping. I'm going to change the queen to a king. Just so with the king, you're actually in better positions. More kings in your range. It's we'll call it 59-41. King would actually be a good card to bluff at too, even if I didn't know the equities, which looking at them I do. But if I see this flop, and let's just say I check flop and it checks back for whatever reason, or he bets and I call, when the king comes, I'm either going to bet straight out, because if he had jack queen, he already